Alright, y'all see what we got going on here today. Well, check this out, man. We knew this day was gonna come. Yep, the feds then finally scooped up Yo Gotti brother Big Jook for allegedly paying the bag to Govan so he could orchestrate the chess play to set up Paper Route Frank. Now, a lot of folks want to know, what took the Alphabet Boys so long to zoom in on Big Jook for taking out young Dolph? See, y'all gotta understand, the feds know in order to bring down Yo Gotti or even his brother Big Jook for allegedly taking out young Dolph, you gonna need concrete evidence. I'm telling y'all, without concrete evidence, nothing will stick because these guys got the bread, plus the proper attorneys in place to represent them in this young Dolph case. But what y'all also have to understand is that Big Jook cousins who are on the Scorpion unit, they hid all kind of evidence along with the footage from the businesses surrounding Makita's parking lot. So the Scorpion unit went and grabbed the security camera footage from Family Dollar, the laundromat, and the gas station before the feds could get to it. And they trashed the footage so it won't show how they were sitting in the gas station parking lot watching the young Dolph setup go down in real time. What y'all don't know is that the Alphabet Boys started looking into Big Jooks' involvement once Govan got indicted. See, if y'all don't know, Big Jook and Govan, they go back like white walls on a Cadillac. So when Govan heard the song where young Dolph was dissing Big Jook, Govan got in contact with Big Jook to let him know he heard what young Dolph said about it, and he ready to take action anytime Big Jook was ready. And from what Straight Drop brother Jamarcus stated, Big Jook made that call to Govan to let him know if he really wanted to do the job that he had the bag ready for him. That's when Govan got Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Lil Migo, CEO Tizzy, Devin Burns, and Shondell Barnett all together so that they could come up with a calculated plan to take out Paper Route Frank. And what people gotta understand is that they were planning for months to remove young Dolph. Now, before I continue, let's pay our respects and say rest in peace to young Dolph, condolences to his family, and much love to all my folks in Dolph land. See, all my folks in Dolph land, they already knew that Yo Gotti brother Big Jook allegedly paid the bag in order to set up young Dolph. But even Big Jook knew in order to get to young Dolph, he couldn't be nowhere near Castaic, because if that was the case, they would have never got to Paper Route Frank. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Big Jook rented Govan a spot closer to Castaic so he could consistently watch Paper Route Frank day to day. Some folks say that young Dolph ops knew Dolph was in town because whenever young Dolph would come to Memphis, the first place that he would go to is Castaic. He will always pull up to Castaic to see how his family and folks is doing. Now remember, I just informed you guys that Big Jook rented Govan a spot right around the corner from Castaic. So Govan, he was one of the first people to spot young Dolph when he came to town. So when Dolph pulled off on his way to Makita's, his ops was already trailing him and he didn't even know it. See, a lot of this info is coming from the witnesses at Family Dollar and the gas station. Not to mention some guys that's affiliated with CMG who had already been investigated once the Scorpion unit got caught up over a year ago. But because the Scorpion unit was in charge of collecting information in connection with this whole young Dolph case, a lot of information was purposely mishandled just so nothing could come back around to Yo Gotti or his brother Big Jook. But check this out, the feds, they've been looking over all the reports and the documents tied to this young Dolph case, and they can see that Big Jook's name had been mentioned on numerous occasions as the person most people expected paid the bag to have young Dolph removed. Now the feds is trying to get Govan to confess that Big Jook fronted the bread, since Govan already admitted that he orchestrated the whole play in order to take out Paper Route Frank, all to protect Yo Gotti brother Big Jook. Again, if y'all really pay attention to the story, it's really messed up how they did young Dolph. And we can all see that jealousy was definitely a component when describing why these dudes wanted young Dolph removed. I'm telling y'all, Yo Gotti or Big Jook wasn't paying young Dolph any attention until young Dolph's name started ringing bells in the streets. That's what made Yo Gotti want to sign young Dolph to CMG. When everybody from Memphis started talking about the tall, skinny, fly dude making major moves in the city, which was around the same time Yo Gotti started dissing young Dolph, ultimately giving young Dolph more notoriety.
Mia J can see the time has finally come now that Big Jook Yo Gotti's brother has finally been arrested by the feds for his connection with the Young Dolph setup. And it's been a long time coming, because you guys have to realize Mia J already suspected Big Jook's connection with the whole setup, but she was being strategic in making sure that she didn't show her cards too early. Because we have to remember, when we're dealing with federal investigations, any loved ones or associates have to keep an especially closed mouth, because they can really jeopardize the entire process of the investigation. And so Mia knew that Yo Gotti and Big Jook have had it out for Dolph for years now. But she couldn't really let the public know that, and she had to make sure that it was legitimately proven by the department. Because it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to prove it in court. So now she will be anxiously awaiting the court proceedings to begin, because at this point, she's aware of the fact that these grudges that Yo Gotti and Big Jook have been holding against Dolph were played out that day at Makita's during the setup. And now that the Scorpion unit was finally dismantled, all of the different players in this Dolph setup are going to be brought to the light and persecuted. And so Mia is very, very hopeful that this is a sign that all the different people will be exposed and justice will be served for young Dolph. And if we really think about it, for the past 2 years, Mia J has been holding on to so much internally. I mean, once she found out about the Scorpion unit and the fact that Yo Gotti and Big Jook actually had people on the department that were family members, she knew that this was going to be very, very difficult for justice to be served for Dolph. Because of course they were going to play their position and they were going to protect their family members and make sure that any information was completely stifled. And that's exactly what happened. But once the Scorpion unit was staunched, then all the information was able to pour out. Not to mention all the witnesses that have been coming forward and connecting with Mia J directly to let her know information that could be helpful for the investigation.
Yeah, by Big Jook finally getting caught up, Mia J, she can see it wasn't just the guys in the streets that wanted Young Dolph removed, but also some people up that ladder who received the bag from Big Jook in order to assist in setting up Paper Route Frank. And the Alphabet Boys, they just need one person to tell so that the whole ship could sink. But on the same topic of all the beef that's going on in Memphis, I don't know if y'all remember, but just over 2 months ago, your boy Moneybag Yo announced the city officials wanted him to cancel his shows in Memphis due to all the criminal activity that's taking place in the city, mostly dealing with guys up in burners at these rap concerts, which will result in somebody getting tagged with a shell or even getting totally removed from this existence. It's real. All my folks in Memphis, y'all be careful out there. But in all, I still don't believe the beef between CMG and PRE had to end up in anybody getting sent up, especially somebody who looked out for the community like Paper Route Frank. That's why, if we want to do better, we got to think better.
Because the youth, they follow everything that we do. Don't really matter the weather.
And that's real. So with that, always be aware and always stay prepared. But hey, we got more in store. As always, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it's worth. Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network.